And just a few minutes ago, the Supreme Court finished hearing oral arguments which could decide the fate of TikTok, one of the nation's most popular social media platforms. Congress had set a January 19th deadline for TikTok's China-based parent company ByteDance to sell the platform. At issue is whether TikTok's ties to the Chinese government threaten national security, something Chief Justice John Roberts addressed today.
ByteDance was found by Congress, and I quote this, to be subject to Chinese laws that require it to assist or cooperate with the Chinese government's intelligence work, quote, and to ensure that the Chinese government has the power to access and control private data that the company holds. So are we supposed to ignore the fact that the ultimate parent is in fact subject to doing intelligence work for the Chinese government?
And back with us now is former U.S. Attorney Joyce Vance, and joining us, Todd Spangler, the business editor for Variety, who's been covering TikTok. So, Joyce, certainly the chief was suggesting that there is an issue of China's indirect control or access to TikTok. There is a Chinese law. And we should also point out that the administration and a majority in Congress decided that there was enough evidence of Chinese hacking, which has really accelerated. There's an ongoing hack right now into telecom companies by China Telecom, which has not even been stopped by the U.S. government or the companies. They haven't even determined the extent of it, accessing everybody's, potentially everybody's cell phones and other devices. Joyce?
There is an absolute national security concern here. China has a different relationship with business entities in the country than the way we think of U.S. companies working with the United States government. And so the concerns presented by the Solicitor General when she discusses why Congress chose to pass this law, it passed with bipartisan support for taking these measures. Those are very real concerns, but it's unprecedented to try to measure them against a platform where people engage in free speech. And that's why the court has agreed to hear this case and is struggling with the issue. It looks from today's argument like those national security concerns will be the most pressing, but how the court gets there remains to be seen. When you're talking about a law that moderates content directly, that would require strict scrutiny, a high legal standard that would require the law to have the best form of justification. It sounded like the justices were interested in using a different standard, perhaps an intermediate scrutiny, a lower standard that would allow them to uphold the law that Congress has passed here.
And Todd, just 2 weeks ago, President-elect Trump called on the Supreme Court to temporarily halt the law that would lead to the nationwide ban of TikTok. This is a change in what his previous position was, and he does have a lot of very wealthy supporters who are involved with TikTok and who have met with him on this. Could Trump ignore the court's decision once he's president if they were to decide against TikTok?
Well, this is a law that has been passed by Congress and signed by President Biden, so he can't just decide that the law no longer applies because he loves TikTok now. He has to abide by the law and the Supreme Court's decision on this. But what he said was he wants the court to basically punt the decision until after he takes office and after he works out a, quote, negotiated settlement that would preserve TikTok in the country and address national security concerns. Somehow his brief with the court did not spell out what that would all mean, but that's what he has asked the Supreme Court to consider.
And, of course, as Elena Kagan pointed out, TikTok does have the option of divesting and selling to an American-based company and eliminating that alleged China threat. Joyce Vance, Todd Spangler, it's a complicated issue. Thank you so much for bringing it to us.